Hello everyone. In this tutorial I will show you how to make a coffee piñata mug that resembles a prescription bottle. Some of the ingredients on here are just a suggestion. I did use a bag of pink and a bag of yellow to kind of create a orange type bottle look. But if I was to do this again at a different time, I would actually probably include some red candy melts in there as well to kind of give it more of a little slight shade of orange. Essentially what you would do is you would find some type of bottle or can that is plastic that is also coated inside to have ability to release the candy melt once you're done with it. You split it in half and then you tape it back together to be able to actually pour and not have anything leak through it. Once you start to pour the candy melt, you end up noticing that a little bit goes a long way, and you can actually spin the bottle to kind of spread it as much as possible. I ended up doing this process about 4 different times, and it's really just up to your thickness that you actually want to end up going with. In my case, 4 different layers was just enough. Once you're ready to remove, you just have to be slightly careful with it. If you actually pull one side a little too hard, there's a chance that you may split it. If some of the top parts come off or break, there's nothing wrong with that. You can always add more candy melt. It's actually very easy to work with. Once you have the shape fully out of the mold, for the areas that are not fully flat, you can use a serrated knife to remove some of the material off of it. For the handle itself, I do recommend using a template. Cardboard or even a piece of paper will actually work so that you can go ahead and be able to cut multiple layers off of the handle shape. Once you spread the candy melt, you don't have to make the layers too thick. In my case, I ended up using about 4 different layers. The reason why you don't use a really thick layer is once you start to carve it out, there's a chance that it will break. So you're better off using small layers and build yourself up to that thickness level. Once you have your shapes all fully cut out, you can actually use some of that same candy melt to glue them together and make the thickness that you actually want to achieve. And then also you could save some of the scraps to be able to place the top coffee layer per se on the actual mug itself. The candy melt can also be used to essentially weld the handle onto the actual mug itself. I would suggest to use a good amount of candy melt to make sure that it's not going to break off easily. I ended up using gum paste to make the lid of the mug itself, which basically represents the lid of the prescription bottle. And I've used this material before. It was actually really easy to work with, and once you cut it out to shape, it's easy to form, and also it breaks just like the candy melt itself or chocolate when you're in the breaking process. You can use the same candy melt to basically glue the gum paste onto the top part of the mug itself. And once it's been fully assembled on top of the coffee mug, you can use some of the same candy melt to make the surface flat on top of the mug itself, and it'll also clean up some of the areas that may have been left out. For the label itself, I used water, or you can use a sponge with water on there to allow it to kind of stick. Once it fully dries, it actually breaks off really easy as well. I would repeat the same process for the other side as well. I did use the other end of the knife to make grooves on the cap per se, which is basically essentially the top of the mug, to represent more of the prescription bottle itself. I didn't use dark chocolate candy melt, or you can actually even use dark chocolate in this case to represent the coffee part of the mug. I also ended up adding a groove to the lid itself. I made a last minute decision to add a wine bottle as a surprise, so I wanted to make sure it would actually fit inside the mug itself. I then started filling up the coffee mug itself with something that would be of a surprise. I used some of my wife's favorite chocolates, wine, as you can see. The kids decided to give her one of their toy gift cards as well. But it could be anything to surprise someone with. As a last step, I ended up using whipped cream to conceal the wine bottle just a little bit more. Once again, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any ideas on anything that's pretty neat or cool, feel free to leave it in the comments. And also, hit the subscribe button so you can follow up with any kind of new ideas I may have in the future.
Look at Meliana, she's just like, give me some of that. I got some wine. Mommy's favorite. And I got a gift card too.